MudBlazor Components Part 6. In Part 6 of the MudBlazor Components series, we'll be demonstrating the implementation of components starting with O to R. As more parts of the series become available, you'll find their links in the description below. Also, the description includes a GitHub link to all the source code. The MudOverlay component allows you to block out a page or a container component. The Mud drawer and Mud app bar is not affected by this. Their default theme settings allow them to appear above the overlay. In our example, we have a button that executes our OpenOverlay method. This simply sets a bool variable to true. The Mud overlay is then triggered by this bool variable. It will use a dark background for the overlay. Alternatively, you have a light background overlay, which won't darken the background but still behaves like an overlay. The auto-close attribute will close the overlay when the user clicks on it. If set to false, you will need to respond to an onClick event to close the overlay. You can use the onClosed event to do something when the overlay is closed. In the next example, we're only going to darken the container or parent component area. In this case, it's a MudPaper component. Note, it's important to set its style position to relative, otherwise it darkens more than just the container area. As before, we have a button that toggles the visibility of the overlay. But once the overlay is visible, we display another button to toggle the overlay off. The next example shows how to use overlay to show data is loading. Here, we use a MUD card, but if the data is not loaded yet, use MUD skeleton elements to reserve space in the card's content area. We'll get to the MUD skeleton component later in the series. The MUD overlay will only show if the visible bool is true. Then, it will show the familiar progress circle. Once the data is loaded, the card content is filled with actual data. A button at the bottom of the card allows the user to refresh the data. It will set the overlay's visibility to true and wait 3 seconds, then turn the overlay off and set data loaded to true. The MudPagination component provides your users with a control to select a page. In its basic form, it has a count attribute for the number of pages, and you can bind the current selected page to a variable. Like most components, it has variants and sizes. For the filled and outlined variants, you can also set it to rectangle. The sizes are the usual small, medium, and large. If you like, you can hide the previous and next buttons. Enable the last page and first page buttons. Or even hide the page numbers. By default, the Show Previous and Show Next button will be true, so you'll need to set them to false to hide them. The Show Page buttons shows or hides the page numbers. You can also use boundary counts. This is the number of pages shown at the beginning and end of the list of page numbers. Here, a boundary count of 2 will always show the first 2 page numbers and the last 2 page numbers. The middle count is how many page numbers to show in the middle. As a final example, let's look at something practical. Here we have a table component. We'll discuss the MUD table in more detail later in the series as we go down the alphabet. In a nutshell, it has headings and a row template. We need a reference to the table, the list of items, and the number of rows it will show per page. In the Pager Content section, we place our MudPagination component. This will call our page changed method when a page selection changes. For the count attribute, we need to calculate the number of pages. In this example, we have 9 students, and our rows per page is 4. So one way to calculate this is 9 plus 4 minus 1 divided by 4 is 3 pages. The MudPaper is a container for other components. You can specify its width and height, and variants like outlined, square, and elevation. The square attribute simply makes the corners square. On a side note, the classes PA and MA comes from MudBlazor's CSS. PA means padding all around, and MA means margin all around. The units are measures of 4 pixels, so MA2 means 2 times 4 or 8 pixels margin all around. MudBlazor has a few picker components you can use. The first one we'll look at is the color picker. In its basic form, we bind a string for the color value. This will be the hex value of the color. Then we use a little trick here. We display the hex color value in the actual selected color. This is the standard color picker. The user can choose the gradient and alpha value. You can also switch between RGB, HSL, and hex input values. You can simplify the color selection for your users with different color picker views. For example, spectrum, palette, grid, or grid compact. The color picker has quite a number of attributes to customize how you want to display it. For example, the show preview, show sliders, show inputs, or the color picker mode, which can be RGB, HSL, or hex. Besides the color picker mode, these are just bool values. Below that, we implemented some checkboxes and selections for the user to choose from. As mentioned, these are just bool values. Just the color picker mode is specific. Our next picker is the date picker component. Besides the default date picker, you can allow your users to manually change the date. Show or disable the date picker's toolbar. Change the date format. Choose to show the week numbers or how many months to display on the pop-up date picker, and change the format of the date shown in the toolbar. Here's the basic date picker. The editable date, the toolbar removed, the week numbers, and 2 months with a changed title date format. You can change the orientation of the date picker. Here, landscape orientation will display the title bar on the side. Now, the date format attribute is how the date is displayed. But when you make the date manually editable, you can also use a date mask to assist the user in how the date is entered. The date picker has some built-in function attributes. For example, The isDateDisabled function can call a method or inline function to determine which dates are not pickable. In this example, we disabled any date that falls on Monday to Friday. The additional date classes function can be used to make some CSS changes to a date. Here, if the date falls on a Sunday, we change its color to red. Alternatively, if you want the user to only pick a year, or a month, or a day in the month, you can use the Fix Year, Fix Month, and Fix Day attributes to pre-select selected parts of the date. Another type of date picker is the date range picker, where a user can choose start and end dates. This component stores to a date range variable. MudBlazor gives us a beautiful analog clock for the user to pick the hours and minutes. To set it into 12-hour mode, set the AM/PM attribute to true. This will give the user the option to pick AM or PM from the title bar. Like the date picker, you can set editable to true to allow the user to manually input the time. Also, like the date picker, you can set the orientation. You can also set the minute step size. In this example, the user can only select every 15 minutes on the clock. The Open to attribute lets you specify what mode the picker will open with. In this case, the minutes selection. The MudPopover is a container for other elements. For example, a list of options the user can choose from. Here we have a button to activate the popover. It will call a method to toggle the open state of the popover. The fixed attribute in the popover means it will stay in a fixed location even if the user scrolls the page. Inside the popover, you can have all sorts of content. Here we have some text and another close button to toggle the open state of the popover. You can specify where the popover should appear in relation to its activator. Here we have a little dot badge on top of a paper element. Its origin is the anchor position where the popover should appear. In this case, we set it to center right. The popover also has a transform origin. This tells it how to appear around its anchor. We set its transform origin to center left, meaning the anchor will be on the left side of the popover. The overflow behavior attribute tells the popover how to behave when there's not enough space at its anchor. Here we specified it should not flip or change position. The relative width attribute of the popover has 3 options. Ignore will display the popover as is. Relative will set the width of the popover to the same width as its activating element. Adaptive allows the popover to change width depending on its dynamic content. The ProgressCircular component is the typical circle animation you see when loading data or waiting for a process to complete. In its basic implementation, you can assign a color and size to it. The indeterminate attribute here, when set to true, will run the animation until some external process or method terminates it. For a bit of customization, you can also round the ends of the circle and increase its stroke width. If you're computing the progress, you can assign a percentage value to it from 0 to 100. Here we simulate a progress by increasing the value and delaying it for half a second. What you can also do is display the progress values inside the circle. You can do this inside the child content tags. Here we use a similar process to increase an integer and double value and also display some text alongside them. Similar to the ProgressCircular component is the ProgressLinear component. This will show an animated bar. The indeterminate attribute will continually show a bar animation until a process interrupts it. Some customizations include color, size, rounded ends, or even a striped bar. The value attribute, by default, is a percentage value between 0 and 100. To show a changing value, we'll use a variable. As an example, we'll increment this value over time. Now, normally the value is in the range 0 to 100, but you can specify your own range using the min-max attributes. Like in the first example here, we set the min value to -7 and the max to 7. Then we can set the actual bar value to -2. It also allows you to set a buffer display that is like a precursor running ahead of the actual value of the bar. To use it, set the buffer attribute to true and a buffer value that is more than the value attribute. Again, we simulate a running value here. As you can see, the buffer value is always more than the value. The last example shows all of the above properties, but with a vertical variation of the bar. The MudRating component displays the familiar 5-star rating for the user. You can set the selected value of the rating, change its color and size, and set its maximum value, or how many stars to display. If you like, you can change which icons to use for the full icons and the empty icons, as well as what their colors should be. Use a bind to the selected value for two-way binding. For the hovered value changed event, we call a method to change an active value. This, of course, can be null if the user isn't hovering over any star. Finally, the label displayed under our rating depends on the active or hover value. If this is null, then use the selected value and display the appropriate message. Thank you for watching our video. For more tutorials on C#, click subscribe. Give us a like so the video can be visible to more people.